When someone wounds your heart, your first impulse is to strike back, to explain, to defend, to make him see the pain he's caused. But pause for a moment and see how predictable that reaction is. The world expects you to rage, to cry, to prove your worth. Yet there is a strange kind of power that blooms in silence, a calm that unsettles the one who tried to control you. When a man hurts you, he expects your energy to feed his ego. He thrives on your confusion, your pleading, your need to be understood. But what if instead you give him the opposite? Clarity without explanation, distance without drama, presence without pursuit. The mind that causes pain cannot comprehend peace. And that peace, when genuine, becomes your quietest revenge. To confuse the one who tried to break you is not about manipulation. It's about mastering yourself. It's about understanding that the one who disturbs your peace deserves only your indifference, because nothing confuses a hurtful person more than seeing you free, free from their grip, free from their validation, and free from needing them to fix the pain they cause. When someone hurts you, their hidden intent often isn't the act itself. It's the reaction they hope to provoke. They want to see your balance break, your emotions spill, your control vanish. Every word you throw back at them feeds the very chaos they planted. Silence, however, is not weakness. It is an act of supreme awareness. It says, I see what you're doing, but I choose not to dance to your rhythm. When you withdraw the reaction, you reclaim the script. You stop being the character in their story and start becoming the author of your own. True silence doesn't mean suppression. It means understanding that some responses empower others more than they free you. You are not obligated to explain your pain to the one who caused it. When you withhold your energy, you interrupt the cycle of emotional dependency. Suddenly, the other person begins to feel something unfamiliar, confusion. Your calmness mirrors back their own noise. The stillness you maintain becomes a mirror in which they see the distortion of their own intent. And that reflection often terrifies those who thrive on drama more than any confrontation ever could. Restraint in moments of emotional turmoil is the highest form of intelligence. It takes far greater strength to hold your peace than to prove your point. The one who hurt you expects noise, expects to see you crumble or chase clarity. But when your reaction doesn't come, it exposes the emptiness of their power. You rob them of their sense of importance, not through aggression, but through your serenity. You become untouchable because nothing confuses a manipulator more than realizing you no longer need their validation to find peace. Silence also gives you time, the sacred space between impulse and wisdom. It allows emotions to settle, thoughts to align, and truth to surface without distortion. In silence, you can observe not only the other person's behavior, but your own patterns as well. You begin to see where you often give away your power too easily. You realize that your energy is your most valuable currency, and not everyone deserves a share of it. This awareness alone shifts the dynamic. You move from reaction to observation, from chaos to clarity. Every word you do not say becomes a lesson in presence. Every breath you take instead of arguing becomes an act of self-respect. Over time, silence stops being a defense mechanism and starts becoming your natural state of power. It is the kind of silence that doesn't beg to be understood, it simply exists, steady and self-contained. And in that existence, you become the quiet storm that unsettles anyone who once mistook your gentleness for weakness. Silence becomes your statement, louder than any cry or confrontation could ever be. So withdraw the reaction, not to punish, but to preserve. Preserve your inner world from contamination, your peace from invasion, and your self-worth from erosion. Because once you master the art of silence, You no longer respond from pain, you respond from purpose. You stop engaging with destruction and start embodying direction. The moment you no longer chase closure from others, you find it within yourself. And in that quiet discovery, your silence speaks the language of power that only those at peace can truly understand. When someone tries to provoke you, they seek emotional confirmation, a visible sign that they still hold power over your mood. Anger, tears, defensiveness, all reassure them that they still live rent-free in your mind. But calmness, true calmness, is a mirror they cannot read. It reflects their chaos without absorbing it. When you remain centered and composed, their manipulation begins to lose its meaning. They can no longer predict you, and unpredictability disarms control. Your calmness becomes not an act of pride, but a shield of mastery that leaves them unsettled and exposed. Calmness is not the absence of emotion, it is the discipline of emotion. To project serenity when you are burning inside is an act of deep power. You acknowledge the storm, yet you refuse to let it define your expression. This unreadable presence is not coldness, it is awareness in motion. It says, I see everything, but I choose peace over performance. People who rely on emotional control grow frustrated when their usual tactics fail. They cannot manipulate what they cannot measure. Your stillness becomes their confusion, and your composure becomes their consequence. The psychology behind unreadable presence lies in perception. When you refuse to react, others are forced to confront their own behavior without distraction. Your calmness becomes a silent invitation for them to face themselves. The louder their insecurity grows, the quieter your strength appears. This reversal of energy turns the manipulator into the confused one. They begin to question their own importance, their own control, their own narrative. You, meanwhile, grow stronger with each moment of restraint, not because you've hidden your emotion, but because you've learned to guide it instead of leak it. Calmness is the highest form of confidence. It does not demand attention, it commands it. It communicates without words that you are no longer available for emotional chaos. When you project this energy, even those who once underestimate you start to sense the shift. They cannot categorize you. You become unreadable, mysterious, untouchable. The more composed you appear, the more they struggle to find leverage. The more composed you appear, the more they struggle to find leverage. This imbalance of energy is not about superiority, but sovereignty. It's about standing so firmly in your peace that no storm can make you abandon yourself again. Maintaining an unreadable presence is an art that grows from self-awareness. You must know what triggers you, what drains you, and what disturbs your rhythm. When you understand your emotional landscape, you stop being reactive and start being intentional. You no longer give instant access to your emotions. Instead, you let silence and subtlety speak. This doesn't mean indifference. It means control. You can feel everything deeply and still respond with grace. And that grace, in a world addicted to noise, becomes your greatest form of strength. Calmness, when genuine, is the language of power few can comprehend. To mirror calmness is to master emotional alchemy, turning hurt into poise, pain into balance, confusion into clarity. When others cannot read you, they cannot rule you. Your peace becomes a puzzle they cannot solve, and that uncertainty reveals their own inner instability. So hold your calm not as a mask, but as truth. Let your serenity speak where anger once screamed. The one who expected your fire will drown in the quiet depth of your composure. Because in the end, the most powerful presence is not the loudest voice in the room. It's the one that stays still while everyone else trembles. Detachment does not mean you stop caring, it means you stop clinging. It is the quiet decision to no longer let someone's behavior dictate your emotional weather. When you detach with dignity, You withdraw your energy not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. You recognize that not every connection deserves constant investment, and not every relationship requires saving. Emotional distance gives you perspective. It allows you to see clearly what attachment once blinded. The confusion begins not in you, but in the one who realizes that their control over your emotions has finally dissolved. Detachment is an act of strength disguised as stillness. It is saying, I can love you and still let you go. When you no longer beg for understanding or chase recognition, you shift the center of power. The person who once defined your worth begins to lose their hold, because their validation no longer fuels you. This dignified withdrawal leaves them uncertain. They don't know whether to chase, to question, or to surrender. And in that uncertainty, they meet the mirror of their own dependency. The very control they tried to have over you now slips away, silently. To detach is not to reject emotion, it is to refine it. You learn to feel deeply without becoming consumed. You stop reacting to every trigger and start observing your own responses. In that observation, you begin to heal. You understand that not everyone you lose is a loss. Some are lessons, some are closures, and some are mirrors reflecting your own need to grow. Detachment helps you reclaim your focus, redirecting it toward the only person you can truly control, yourself. And when you master that, the need for external validation fades like noise in the distance. Dignity gives detachment its strength. Without dignity, detachment can become cold withdrawal. With it, it becomes graceful liberation. Dignity reminds you that your peace is worth more than being right, more than being understood, more than being chosen. It teaches you that walking away in silence can be the loudest act of self-worth. People who hurt you expect reaction. They crave emotional confirmation that they still matter. But when you walk away with composure, you leave behind a silence that echoes far louder than any confrontation. Your distance becomes a statement they cannot ignore. Emotional distance does not mean you build walls. It means you create space. Space to breathe, to think, to heal. It's the difference between isolation and clarity. In that space, you find yourself again, not the version shaped by someone's opinions, but the version that existed before pain took the lead. The more you detach, the more you realize that love is not meant to be possession. You can care for someone and still choose peace. You can wish them well and still close the door. And that kind of detachment confuses anyone who equates love with control. To detach with dignity is to reclaim your soul from emotional dependency. It's realizing that the person who once defined your happiness was never meant to own it. You understand that closure doesn't always come through words. Sometimes it comes through silence, acceptance, and distance. The true art of detachment lies in remembering that you are complete, even when alone. And when he sees that his absence no longer disturbs your peace, confusion will settle in his heart. Because nothing is more powerful than a person who no longer needs to be needed to feel whole. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. When someone hurts you, your first instinct may be to dwell, to replay the moments of betrayal or insult. Yet true power lies not in ruminating, but in transforming that hurt into insight. Every wound carries a lesson if you are willing to see it. When you look beyond the immediate sting, you begin to understand patterns in yourself, in the other person, and in human behavior at large. This understanding is not revenge, it is wisdom. And wisdom confuses those who once sought to control you, because it cannot be argued with or diminished. Transcending pain requires a shift in perspective. Instead of focusing on the damage done, you focus on the growth possible. Every setback, Every slight, every insult becomes a stepping stone toward clarity and self-mastery. The one who tried to hurt you cannot grasp this transformation. They expect to see you crumble or retaliate, but when they see you rising above the hurt, they are met with something they cannot manipulate: your evolution. Growth is the quietest yet most disarming form of power, and it leaves the source of your pain bewildered, unable to locate their influence. Turning wounds into wisdom also demands emotional honesty. You must feel your pain fully, without judgment, without rushing the process. To deny it is to give it secret power. To repress it is to let it fester. But when you confront your hurt with courage, you convert its energy into understanding. You see what triggered you, why it affected you, and how you can respond differently in the future. This clarity builds resilience. You are no longer reactive to the past because you understand it. Your growth becomes the mirror in which the one who wounded you sees their impotence. Pain teaches boundaries. Each hurtful encounter becomes a guide to knowing where to draw the line. You learn what you will no longer tolerate, who you allow into your emotional space, and what is necessary to preserve your inner peace. This knowledge transforms confusion into confidence. The person who caused pain cannot predict your boundaries if you establish them calmly and consistently. They expected you to bend, to justify, to beg forgiveness or validation. But when your boundaries are rooted in self-awareness and dignity, they meet resistance that is both subtle and unshakable. Wisdom from pain also allows you to cultivate empathy. Understanding the causes behind someone's behavior does not excuse it, but it frees you from carrying their burden. You recognize that their actions are reflections of their limitations, fears, or ignorance. By transcending the personal hurt, you stop giving power to anger and resentment. Your clarity becomes a beacon, a demonstration that growth is far more compelling than grievance. This transformation unsettles those who expect drama. They cannot comprehend strength that is gentle, growth that is silent, and freedom that requires no justification. Ultimately, transcending pain is a choice to live fully despite suffering. It is to turn scars into teachers, heartbreak into wisdom, and betrayal into clarity. When you evolve in this way, you no longer confuse others with games or manipulation. You confuse them with the simple, unassailable fact of your growth. You become unpredictable not through deception, but through mastery of self. And that mastery, rooted in reflection, courage, and insight, creates a quiet power that the one who hurt you cannot touch, control, or understand. A power that radiates from your very being. As we reflect on the journey through hurt, confusion, and growth, it becomes clear that the path to true freedom is not found in retaliation or anger, but in mastery of oneself. When someone wounds us, our first instinct may be to respond, to prove a point, or to seek validation. Yet the greatest strength lies in restraint, in withdrawing the reaction and allowing silence to do what words cannot. Silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It becomes a mirror reflecting not weakness but composure, and it quietly unsettles the one who expected to control your emotions. Calmness, too, is a powerful tool. Projecting serenity in the face of provocation creates a presence that cannot be measured, predicted, or manipulated. When you remain composed while others expect chaos, you shift the balance of power without aggression or spectacle. Your unreadable calm becomes a quiet statement. Your peace cannot be taken from you. In that calm, confusion arises in those who seek to dominate your emotional landscape, and through that, you reclaim authority over your own life. Equally important is the art of detachment. By shifting focus from the one who hurt you to yourself, you remove the external validation that fuels emotional dependency. Detachment is not indifference, but a dignified acknowledgement that your self-worth is independent of another's behavior. When you create this distance with respect and clarity, confusion arises naturally. The one who once defined your happiness is forced to confront the reality that you are whole on your own. This clarity of self is liberating, and it teaches others that their control over your life is an illusion. Transcending pain is the culmination of this process. Hurt, when examined and reflected upon, becomes a teacher rather than a chain. Every wound holds insight, every betrayal a lesson. By converting suffering into wisdom, you confuse not through manipulation, but through evolution. Growth becomes your response, and resilience your statement. You move through life shaped not by others' attempts to harm you, but by your own courage and self-awareness. This transformation is subtle yet profound, creating a power that cannot be stolen or diminished. The journey from reaction to mastery is one of intentionality and reflection. It is a conscious decision to prioritize your inner peace, to honor your dignity, and to cultivate strength in silence. When you walk this path, the one who hurt you encounters a reality they cannot manipulate, a presence rooted in calmness, clarity, and self-possession. Confusion is no longer the product of games or defiance, but the natural consequence of your transformation. You become unshakable, grounded, and free. In the end, the message is simple yet profound. Peace, calmness, detachment, and growth are the most powerful tools we possess. They allow us to navigate pain without losing ourselves, to rise above hurt without holding grudges, and to confuse not through deception, but through mastery of our own being. May you carry this understanding forward in your life, embodying strength and serenity in every encounter. Thank you, and may you be blessed with clarity, peace, and enduring wisdom.